E-Studio exists in shadows and amber light, designed for intimate revelations rather than typical celebrity promotion. 3 cameras capture every detail of the conversation between veteran journalist Sarah Chen and Keanu Reeves. At 42, Sarah has built her reputation on asking questions others won't dare voice, toppling politicians and exposing carefully crafted celebrity personas. Keanu sits calmly across from her, wearing a simple black suit, his salt and pepper beard neatly trimmed. His dark eyes hold that magnetic quality that made him famous, the ability to seem completely present, as if this moment is all that matters. The recording light blinks on. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Good evening. I'm Sarah Chen, and tonight we're sitting down with Keanu Reeves. Sarah begins with practiced warmth. Thank you for joining us. I know you don't do many interviews these days. Thank you for having me, Sarah. Keanu responds with his characteristic measured cadence. I'm here because I think there are some conversations worth having. Sarah detects something beneath his calm exterior. Her pre-interview research revealed not just the public Keanu, Matrix, John Wick, the internet's beloved figure, but also private struggles, deaths that shaped him, grief that carved deep channels through his life. Tonight's conversation will be different, Sarah continues, eyes never leaving his face. We're not discussing your latest film. Instead, we're exploring something much more personal. What has become your most controversial characteristic? Keanu smiles slightly, as if anticipating the direction. There's been considerable discussion about the Keanu phenomenon, Sarah explains. Your reputation for kindness, for treating everyone with respect, for almost anachronistic decency in an industry known for being anything but decent. Not everyone sees this as positive. Tonight, I want to understand the real story behind the kindness. Sarah's pulse quickens as she reaches for her tablet, sensing she's found her opening. Just last month, a documentary premiered at Sundance called The Dark Side of Hollywood Kindness. Have you seen it? Keanu's posture shifts slightly, more attentive, but not defensive. I haven't. It features interviews with agents, producers, studio executives, Sarah continues, having memorized the key quotes. The central thesis is fascinating, if troubling, that kindness, as you practice it, simply doesn't survive in truly ruthless industries, that Hollywood is a machine that consumes the genuinely kind and spits out either the broken or the fake. She locks eyes with him. One executive who's worked with A-listers for 20 years said, Keanu Reeves is either the greatest actor of our generation, playing the role of a kind man so convincingly he's fooled the world, or he's genuinely kind, in which case he's a walking miracle, because Hollywood should have destroyed that part of him by now. Sarah presses harder. The documentary goes further, featuring a former publicist who claims your entire persona was crafted after early career missteps, that kindness is strategic, designed to make you bulletproof in an industry where scandal can end careers. The studio feels smaller, cameras more intrusive. It suggests that in an environment where millions are at stake, where careers are built and destroyed on opening weekends, where executives fire assistants for bringing wrong coffee, kindness isn't just unsustainable, it's impossible. That what we call kindness is really manipulation. Sarah delivers her challenge. So here's my question, Keanu. In an industry built on competition, ego, and financial brutality, how do you explain the persistence of your kindness? Is it real, strategy, or something else entirely? The question hangs like smoke from a fired gun. The smile that spreads across Keanu's face isn't practiced celebrity deflection, it's genuine gratitude, as if he'd been waiting years for someone to ask the right question. Sarah finds herself off balance, having expected defensiveness or smooth deflection. You know what I appreciate about that question? Keanu says, his voice filling the studio with unexpected warmth. It assumes that kindness requires explanation, that in 2024, being decent to people has become so unusual it needs to be defended or justified. He leans forward, settling in for a conversation he seems to have anticipated. And you're right about one thing, Sarah. Hollywood should have destroyed whatever kindness I started with, By all logic, it should have ground it up and fed it to the machine along with my naive dreams of being an artist instead of a product. The studio atmosphere shifts, becoming less interrogation room and more intimate discussion space. But here's what that documentary gets wrong, Keanu continues with patient conviction. They assume kindness is something that happens to you, rather than something you choose. They think it's a personality trait, like having brown eyes, something you're born with and can lose.
Sarah realizes she's holding her breath as he speaks directly to the camera.
The truth is more complicated. Kindness isn't something I have, it's something I do. The reason it has survived Hollywood, fame, grief, all the things that should have broken it, is because it's not a weakness to be protected. It's a strength to be exercised.
His gaze returns to Sarah.
Real kindness only exists when you fully understand how cruel the world can be, and you choose to be different anyway.
Sarah feels her prepared follow-up questions dissolving, realizing she's encountering something far more complex than expected. "That's not what I expected you to say," she admits.
Keanu laughs softly. Good. I'd hate to be predictable.
"You're right. Hollywood should have destroyed whatever kindness I started with," he admits.
But they assume kindness is something that happens to you, rather than something you choose. Kindness isn't something I have, it's something I do. Real kindness only exists when you fully understand how cruel the world can be, and you choose to be different anyway.
The studio seemed to contract around them as Keanu's expression shifted from philosophical discussion to something more personal. Sarah recognized the change immediately, the moment an interview subject decides to reveal something real.
But I need to tell you how I learned that, Keanu said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Because choosing kindness, it wasn't always my instinct. He looked down at his hands, fingers interlaced. When I was younger, I thought the world owed me something. Success, happiness, love. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I was talented enough, life would somehow be fair.
The cameras caught the subtle tremor in his voice as he continued.
Then River died, my best friend. Gone at 23 from an overdose outside the Viper Room. I was supposed to meet him that night. He paused, breathing carefully. 3 years later, my daughter was stillborn. Jennifer and we fell apart. She died in a car accident a year and a half after that.
Sarah felt the weight of the studio's silence. This wasn't the carefully managed grief of celebrity interviews. This was raw, unprocessed pain.
For a while, I was angry, furious at God, at the universe, at anyone who seemed happy while my world was crumbling. Keanu's eyes met hers, and she saw something that no amount of acting could fake, the deep exhaustion of someone who had carried unbearable weight. I became mean, sharp with people who didn't deserve it, cruel to anyone who tried to help. He smiled sadly. Fame made it worse. Everyone wanted something from me while I had nothing left to give. I was broken, Sarah, completely broken.
The admission hung between them, like a bridge. From the composed man defending kindness to someone who had once been destroyed by life's cruelty.
That's when I discovered something that changed everything.
It was a Tuesday in 2003, Keanu continued, his voice gaining strength as he moved from pain toward revelation. I was walking through LAX, exhausted from filming, just
Empty. This was maybe 2 years after Jennifer died, and I was still walking around like a ghost. Sarah leaned forward, sensing they were approaching the heart of his transformation. There was this kid, maybe 8 years old, waiting with his mom at the gate. He recognized me, and his face just lit up. Not because I was famous, but like he was genuinely happy to see me. His mom tried to shush him, probably thinking I didn't want to be bothered. Keanu's eyes brightened with the memory. But this little boy, he walked over and said, "Mr. Reeves, my dad says you're sad sometimes. I wanted to give you this." And he hands me this crumpled drawing he'd made, stick figures of Neo and Morpheus,
with the words, "You are not alone," written in crayon. The studio felt charged with quiet emotion. Even the camera operators seemed transfixed. "I almost broke down crying right there in the airport," Keanu admitted. Here was this child offering comfort to a stranger. No agenda, no expectation of anything in return, just pure, uncomplicated kindness. He paused, gathering his thoughts. That's when I understood. Kindness wasn't something I'd lost. It was something I'd forgotten how to see, how to receive, how to give. All those months of grief and anger had blinded me to the fact that kindness was everywhere, waiting. Sarah watched him straighten slightly, as if the memory itself provided strength. So I started practicing it, deliberately, like meditation or exercise. I made kindness my survival tool, instead of letting bitterness destroy me. His voice grew firm, and that's when I learned the truth that documentary missed completely. Sarah studied Keanu's face, searching for cracks in his composure. As touching as his airport story was, she wasn't ready to abandon her line of questioning. Her reputation had been built on pushing past comfortable narratives to find harder truths. "That's a beautiful story," she said, her tone carrying just enough skepticism to maintain pressure. "But that was 20 years ago, a moment of inspiration from a child. How does that translate to navigating an industry where kindness is often seen as vulnerability to be exploited?" Keanu's expression sharpened, not with defensiveness, but with clarity. "That's exactly the misconception I'm talking about, Sarah. This idea that kindness equals vulnerability, that being decent makes you a target." He leaned forward, his voice gaining intensity. "Real kindness, the kind that survives, isn't naive. It's not walking around with your guard down, trusting everyone, letting people take advantage of you. That's not kindness. That's foolishness." The change in his energy was palpable. Sarah realized she was no longer looking at the gentle, philosophical man from moments before, but someone with steel beneath the surface. Kindness is seeing someone exactly as they are, including their capacity for selfishness, manipulation, even cruelty, and choosing to treat them with dignity anyway. It's saying, "I know you might try to hurt me, and I'm going to be decent to you regardless, because that's who I choose to be." His hands moved as he spoke, gesturing with the controlled precision of someone who had thought deeply about these concepts. "You want to know what requires real strength? Staying kind when everyone around you is cutting throats. Treating the assistant with the same respect as the studio head. Remembering that the person trying to destroy your career is still a human being." Sarah felt her prepared counterarguments shifting. "But surely there are limits."
"Are there?" Keanu interrupted gently, his eyes holding hers. "Or have we just been told there should be?" Hollywood Insider's Shadow. The studio lighting dims as Sarah glances at her notes, preparing her next challenge. "But Keanu, let me push back with something concrete. Last month, I spoke with Marcus Steinberg. You know him. He's represented A-listers for 30 years. He told me about what he calls the kindness test. He said Hollywood has a way of testing every actor's limits. They'll give you an assistant who steals from you, a director who humiliates you publicly, a co-star who tries to sabotage your scenes. The industry watches how you respond. Do you fire people? Do you fight back? Do you protect yourself?" Images flash in viewers' minds. Tabloid scandals, career-ending feuds, the wreckage of those who couldn't play the game. Steinberg's point was that the people who stay kind, who don't fire the thief, who don't destroy the saboteur, they get labeled as weak. And in Hollywood, weak means finished. She leaned forward, pressing the attack. "He specifically mentioned you, said there were 3 incidents early in your career where you had every right to destroy someone's reputation, end their career, make them pay. Instead, you stayed quiet, stayed kind." His theory?
That's when the industry decided you were either playing an incredibly long game or you were someone they could push around forever. The weight of institutional cynicism filled the space between them. So here's the real question. In a system designed to reward ruthlessness, how do you explain not just surviving, but thriving, while refusing to use the weapons everyone else considers essential? The cameras capture Keanu's face as he processes this direct challenge to everything he's just said about kindness as strength. Doesn't your success, despite kindness, actually prove that kindness is the luxury of the already powerful? Keanu was quiet for a long moment, his eyes fixed on a point somewhere beyond the cameras. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who had lived through exactly what Sarah described. "Marcus is right about those 3 incidents," he said finally, "and I remember each one perfectly. The assistant who embezzled $40,000 from my production company, the director who told Variety I was intellectually unsuited for complex roles, and the co-star who spread rumors that I was difficult to work with because I wouldn't join their little clique." Sarah felt a chill of anticipation. This was the moment she had been building toward. But here's what Marcus and that entire way of thinking gets fundamentally wrong, Keanu continued, his voice growing stronger. They think kindness means being passive. They think it means letting people walk over you. That's not kindness, Sarah. That's cowardice dressed up as virtue. He leaned forward, and for the first time in the interview, Sarah saw something fierce in his eyes. Real kindness is the hardest thing you can do in a cruel world. It's not about being nice. It's about being strong enough to absorb someone's worst behavior and still choose how you respond. Those 3 people? They were all struggling with something deeper than greed or ambition. The assistant had a gambling addiction that was destroying her family. The director had just been passed over for a Marvel film and was spiraling. The co-star was dealing with a substance abuse problem that eventually killed his career. Sarah blinked, unprepared for this level of specific knowledge about incidents that had supposedly been forgotten. Kindness isn't ignoring these problems or pretending they don't hurt. It's seeing the whole person, understanding why they're lashing out, and choosing to respond with something that might actually help, rather than just punish. He smiled, but it wasn't gentle anymore. It was determined. The hardest part isn't staying kind when someone attacks you. It's staying kind when you have the power to destroy them. The camera slowly fades from the studio to a modest apartment in Portland, Oregon. A woman in her 30s, Elena Martinez, sits by a window overlooking a quiet street. "I know this sounds dramatic, but I'm not sure I'd be alive if it wasn't for 15 minutes with Keanu Reeves. This was 2019. I'd just lost my job, my relationship had ended badly, and my mom was dying of cancer. I was walking through downtown Vancouver at like 2 in the morning, just walking. I wasn't planning anything specific, but I wasn't really planning a future either, you know? I sat down on this bench outside this 24-hour diner, and this guy sits down next to me. Doesn't say anything at first, just sits there. After maybe 10 minutes, he goes, 'Rough night?' And I look over, and it's Keanu Reeves." I started crying, not because he was famous, but because for the first time in months, someone had actually looked at me, really seen me. And instead of walking away, which, let's be honest, most people would do when a stranger starts sobbing, he just sat there. He didn't give me advice or try to fix anything, he just listened. For 15 minutes, he listened to a complete stranger tell him about her dying mother and her broken life. And when I was done, he said something I'll never forget. "The world needs you to stay. I can tell." 3 words changed everything. I can tell. Like he saw something in me worth saving even when I couldn't see it myself. I got help the next week, real help, because someone took 15 minutes to remind me that I mattered. In cities across the world at this very moment, small acts of kindness unfold in the spaces between headlines. A grocery clerk remembers a regular customer's name. A teacher stays late to help a struggling student. A neighbor checks on someone they haven't seen in days.